Good evening, respected guests of the day and participants across the globe. I am Shweta Maria Charles, a student volunteer of ASCE Student Chapter at Federal Institute of Science and Technology. I will be your anchor for today's event. It is my great privilege to share a few words on the institution and organization I represent. The BTech graduate program in civil engineering provided by Federal Institute of Science and Technology, a private self-financing engineering college, envisages to provide students with a good understanding of civil engineering solutions in a global, societal, and environmental context. ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers, student chapter of the department, endeavors to actively support students' growth as future civil engineers by organizing various events like technical talks, field visits, exhibitions, paper presentations, community service, and special projects. We acknowledge the presence of the organizing team headed by Dr. Unnikata Ji, head of the department, Ms. Neeraja Nair, faculty coordinator of ASCE at FISAT, Mr. Jawahar South S., the moderator of the event, and Ms. Rinu J. Akaisen, faculty member. We all know economic development and environmental sustenance are two aspects which are interlinked. All developmental activities will have an impact on the environment. This impact may either be absorbed by the nature or may be severe and irrecoverable. In short, EIA is a tool of the 20th century to strike a balance between development and environment. With great pleasure, I welcome everyone to this event, which focuses on the most trending topic in the present scenario, environmental impact assessment process, with special reference to water resources projects, organized by ASCE in association with KSCSTE and CWRDM. The CWRDM, which stands for Center for Water Resources Development and Management, was established by the Government of Kerala as an autonomous research organization on recognizing the need for catering to the R&D needs in the field of water management, and this center was later amalgamated with the Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment, abbreviated as KSCSTE. The webinar received a tremendous response, and we have around 1,000 listeners located in different parts of the state, country, and the world. I extend a special welcome to all of you who have joined us here around various platforms. Participants, please note, kindly post your questions in the chat window of your platform with your name, institution, or location. The question will be taken up by the moderators and communicated to the speakers. The feedback link will be posted in the comments section. Please look out for it at the end of the session. It will be open for 15 minutes. E-certificates will be based on it. Do fill it up carefully. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Jawahar South, Faculty Coordinator, Civil Department, FISAT, to welcome the guest. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be the moderator for the event. I would like to invite our invited guest for the day. Our speaker is Mr. Jayakumar P. He is the Senior Principal Scientist and Head, Environment and Climatic Change Studies Division, Center for Water Resource Development and Management, CWRDM, Kozhikode, Kerala, in India. With more than 31 years of professional and research experience, he has his research interest in the areas of application of water quality models for pollution abatement, water and wastewater treatment management studies, environmental impact assessments, and development of non-conventional source-based water supply systems. He is a life member of Indian Society for Hydraulics, Indian Water Works Association, Indian Water Resources Society, International Association of Hydraulic Engineering and Research, and a Fellow of Institution of Engineers, India. He has to his name more than 25 publications in national and international journals, conferences, and books in the field. I welcome you, sir, to the event.
So good afternoon to all. So today our topic for discussion is environmental impact assessment. So what is environmental impact assessment? Environmental impact assessment is an assessment of the likely impacts the implementation of a development project will create on the environment. Traditionally, the planners of projects used to give importance to the technical aspects of the projects only, because mostly these major projects used to be planned by engineers, and they will always give importance to the technical aspects. For example, if one thinks of implementing a irrigation project, they will give maximum importance to the how much area is to be irrigated, or that how much water is needed, where all the canals has to be laid, and for supplying a particular quantity of water, how much storage is to be created, for that where a dam is to be located, what should be the height of the dam, what should be the material for construction of the dam, etc., etc. And when we went on like that, implementing projects without giving any due importance for the impacts those projects create on the environment, we learned that these projects, when in operation during its construction phase as well as during its operation phase, creates a lot of impacts which we never thought of. So as a result of such experiences, such bad experiences, we understood the relationship between our actions and the impacts it creates on the environment, which in turn indirectly or directly affects the human beings. So we learned that our activities, without giving any importance to the effects or impacts it creates on the environment, will ultimately affect us itself badly. So over the period of years, we started thinking of giving importance to the environmental aspects also during the planning stage of the project itself, so that when the project is implemented or when it is in operation, adverse effects will be minimum. You cannot say that adverse effects there cannot be any adverse effects, but if we give importance to environmental impacts in the planning stage, we can bring down the adverse impacts to a minimum level. So that's how the thinking of environmental considerations in planning stage came into existence. And if we have to reduce the impacts on the environment, we must build in sufficient mechanisms in the projects itself so that the environmental impacts will be minimal. And that objective is achieved through this environmental impact assessment. So as the name indicates, environmental impact assessment is a study of the probable changes in the various socio-economic and biophysical characteristics of the environment which may occur due to a developmental activity. So that is the definition of environmental impact assessment. So why this is done, as I have already explained, this is done for providing the decision makers a complete picture of what all impacts are likely to occur when the project is implemented. So, environmental impact assessment tries to provide a complete picture of the likely impacts a project will create on the environment when the project, a particular project is implemented. So that is the importance of environmental impact assessment. So now, if you want to implement any project, any major project, we need to get an environmental clearance for the project from the competent authority for giving that clearance. In India, the Ministry of Environment and Forest at Government of India level is the competent authority to accord approval for implementing a project from the environmental angle. And now, in the state governments also, there is an agency for looking into the impacts of the projects and giving approval for certain kinds of projects. We will see all those things in due course. So, environmental impact assessment is a study of the probable changes. So, that probable is very important because the study is done about the project to know what are the likely impacts the project is going to create on the environment when the project is implemented. So that's why the word probable comes into the picture. So, what is the, let us see the brief history of this, how it came into existence. Like many other things, this was first started in USA in the year 1970 in the form of an act. It was called NEPA Act. It came into existence in 1970. And in the 70s itself, many other countries like Canada, New Zealand, Indonesia, etc. also enacted similar acts to bring in the environmental conservation in project planning. And in 1989, the World Bank insisted that any project implemented with their funding has to have an environmental impact assessment study done. That's how this environmental impact assessment process became popular, because world over, major projects are mostly funded by World Bank. So with the insistence by World Bank that any project which is implemented with their funding needs an environmental impact assessment study to be done, made environmental impact assessment process compulsory in most of the major projects. Coming back to India, we started with a certain guidelines brought about by Department of Environment and Forest in 1978, and that was for river valley projects. So what was intended by that guideline was a rigorous assessment of the environmental impacts to incorporate mitigating measures in the project system. That was not not like a licensing or a permission to implement project. It was only a guideline for to be considered while implementing projects, so that impacts can be brought down to minimum. So that's how it started in India. Then in 1980, an act known as Forest Conservation Act came. That intended, if your particular project involves some forest area, you have to get a clearance from the forest department. So that also was not a licensing exercise, but they wanted to get a clearance from the forest department if your project involves some area in the forest. Then the landmark EIA notification was brought about by Ministry of Environment and Forest in 1994. With this, EIA took a firm root in India. And this EIA notification of 1994 actually made environmental clearance statutory for 29 categories of projects listed along with that notification. Later on, of course, a few number of projects were also added. So now it stands at 32 categories of projects to have to get a clearance from the Ministry of Environment and Forest. That's how this environmental clearance process came into existence in India. So that is this 1994 notification by Ministry of Environment and Forest. So let us now examine Who are the participants of an impact assessment study? It can be broadly classified into four. The first one is called the proponent. Proponent means the individual or group who wants to carry out a project. So they are called the proponent who wants to carry out the project. So if it is an irrigation project, normally the irrigation department will be the proponent. If it's a project relating to establish some chemical industry, it may be the management of the industry may be the proponent. Then comes the consultants. Consultant means the proponent will not have the capability to carry out the impact assessment study. They may not have the expertise to do it. So they will engage certain consultants who have got the expertise to carry out the study. You must remember that environmental impact assessment encompasses a very wide field of areas of activities. So to do an environmental impact assessment, always a multidisciplinary team of experts will be needed. You must have an engineer, you must have a geologist, you must have a statistician, you must have an economist. Likewise, it should be a team consisting of experts from different fields, because environment involves a lot of things. So experts who are able to study the impacts likely to occur on all the aspects of the environment only can carry out an impact assessment study. So the proponent will engage consultants who have got the expertise to do the study. And now the consultant means it must be an agency accredited with NABET. In India, the Quality Council of India, QCI, has made certain norms for that. If an impact assessment study is to be done, it can be done now only by an accredited agency, which is accredited with the Quality Council of India. So there are a lot of guidelines for getting that accreditation and all that. Basically, it is to ensure that the study is done by competent people, those who are having expertise on all the aspects to be covered under the project only can do a study now. So that is about consultants. Then comes the decision maker. The decision maker, as the name indicates, it's a agency or a group of experts whose decision is needed by the proponent for carrying out the project. That means the permission of the decision maker is actually needed by the proponent. In the case of our country, either the Ministry of Environment and Forest at the Government of India level, or corresponding agency in the state government level is the decision maker. So for certain kind of projects, the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change and the Government of India can give consent, and for certain other category of project, the corresponding agency in the state government, that is State Environmental Impact Assessment Authority, can examine the impact assessment reports and give consent for carrying out projects. The details of all that we will see later on. Then comes the review committee. Review committee means the decision is a committee which advises the decision maker for taking appropriate decision about a project. So they will have experts from different fields who are capable of evaluating the impact assessment study report submitted by the consultant or the proponent for taking out an appropriate decision regarding the project. So the review committee advises the decision maker for taking an appropriate decision about giving permission for the project. So these are the four players in an impact assessment study. So now let us see what are the different projects, what are the different types of projects which has to get a clearance for implementation. So as I have said already, certain kinds of projects needs to get a clearance from the Ministry of Environment and Forest and the Government of India level, and certain kinds of projects need to get a clearance only from the corresponding agency, the state government. So in the state government, in Kerala, under the Department of Science and Technology, there is a group, a panel which examines the projects and gives consent for implementing the project. So this, whether it has to get a clearance from the central government agency or from the state government agency is decided based on the potential of the impacts that particular project is likely to create on the environment. So this list of projects actually gives what is the threshold value which defines where from a particular project has to get a permission. So let us see that. So broadly these projects are classified into category A and category B. Category A means the projects coming under category A has to get a clearance from the central government, that is the Ministry of Environment and Forest, Government of India, and category B projects has to go to the corresponding agency in the state government, that is the State Environmental Impact Assessment Authority in the state level. Each state has got an Environmental Impact Assessment Authority. So this shows category A projects. This is a continuation of category A projects. And then this shows the category B projects, that is the sole state list. So the projects which are listed here has to get a clearance from the Environmental Impact Assessment Authority in the state level. Again, category B projects are further classified into category B1 and B2. And that's also again depending on the type of the project. So all that will be done at the Impact Assessment Authority will examine the type of project and decide whether it comes under category B1 or B2, and then accordingly they will take action. So this list actually shows what is the criteria based on which it is decided where from one particular project has to get clearance. For example, in the second row, you can see river valley projects. It is shown that if the project has a component of hydroelectric power generation greater than 50 megawatt, it has to get a clearance from the central government authority. And if its power generation is less than 50 megawatt and more than 25 megawatt, it has to get a it has to go to the state government authority for getting clearance for implementation. Similarly, power generation is not the only criteria for deciding the where from you have to get a clearance. The command area of the project is also very important. If the command area is more than 10,000 hectares, then it has to go to the central government agency for getting clearance. And if it is less than 10,000 hectares, it has to go to the state government agency. So likewise, for each type of project, what is the magnitude of the impact or its significance, and corresponding to that, where from which agency we have to get a clearance is shown in this list. The list is extending to 3-4 pages. So you can see almost all types of projects here, and that is the type of projects and where from you are to get the clearance, etc. Is shown here. And so during the impact assessment process, the proponent has to decide whom he has to approach for getting a clearance. But over irrespective of the project, irrespective of the magnitude of the project, all projects in ecologically sensitive and fragile areas has to get a environmental clearance. That is very important. Even if the project is its impact is very minor, but if it is located in an ecologically sensitive or fragile areas, it has to get an environmental clearance, irrespective of the magnitude of the project. And what are these ecologically sensitive areas? An example is our Silent Valley. So there are certain areas declared by the government of India as ecologically sensitive or fragile areas. From time to time, the government of India modifies that list also. So if your project falls in an ecologically sensitive area, you have to get a clearance. You have to go in for an environmental impact assessment, irrespective of the magnitude of the project. So these are some of the environmentally sensitive places is listed here. You can glance through it. Besides that, all projects in or near forests or biosphere reserves also need an environmental clearance. So that also has to, such projects also has to go in for an environmental clearance from the competent authority. So now let us see a flow chart which shows the environmental impact assessment process in India. So you can see here the project category. If it falls in the category A, it has to get a clearance from the Ministry of Environment and Forest, and the category B projects has to get a clearance from the state government agency. So they have to approach the state government agency if it is a category B project and submit all the necessary documents for getting a clearance. So once the application is submitted, it will be subjected to a process known as screening, and screening is to decide whether it comes under category B1 or B2 category, and then if it comes under the B1 category, it will be subjected to a process known as scoping. What the screening, scoping, etc., we'll see in detail later on. And then it will, after the scoping process, a draft EAA report will be prepared based on the elaborate study conducted. And after the draft EAA report is prepared, with that draft EAA report, an exercise known as public consultation will be conducted to gather the views of the public who are living in the area where the project is likely to come up, and then their apprehensions also will be addressed, and the draft EAA report will be modified and then submitted for final clearance. So that is in short about the impact assessment process in India. We shall see the details of it later on in this presentation. So this is in a nutshell about the impact assessment process in India. So what is this screening? We have shown here that first process is screening. So screening means it's a process to decide whether a detailed impact assessment study is needed or not, depending on the category of the project. Some projects may not need a detailed study because its impacts will be very less. So in the screening stage, it can be decided whether one has to go in for a detailed study or not. And also it will be checked under which category that project comes, whether B1 or B2, because certain category of projects does not need a detailed study. B2 category project does not need. B2 category example is building construction projects, area development projects, etc. So such projects does not need a detailed study. That's why we decide in the screening stage under which category that particular project is coming. So if it is under B2, we will not go in for a detailed study. And if it comes under the B1, then we have to go in for the scoping stage. That is the second stage in the impact assessment process. That is to determine the terms of reference for the project. Terms of reference means we will decide what all parameters one need to study in details. See, impacts will not be very prominent or very significant in some of the environmental parameters. So in this stage, we decide the authority through a series of meetings with the proponent decides which all parameters of the environment need to be studied in details. So that is the scoping process. We decide the scope of the impact assessment study. So that is the second stage. Also, in the scoping stage, all possible alternatives to the project will be also examined. See, for example, you want to generate electricity. You can generate electricity through a hydroelectric project, through a thermal project, through a nuclear project, etc. Or instead of locating the site at location A, there may be a location B where also this project can be implemented. So all such alternatives to the project has to be examined, and then the alternative which produces the least impact will only be considered for the further studies. That's all done in the stage of scope. So the significant effects, factors, and alternatives to be considered, etc., are all studied in the scoping stage. So that in the further steps, you need to concentrate only on those parameters which are likely to be affected significantly. So that is the scoping stage. And based on the decisions taken in the scoping stage, the agency which is carrying out the study will carry out the detailed study, and then a draft environmental impact assessment report will be prepared. So this third stage is public consultation. That is, the people living in the area where the project is going to come will have a lot of apprehensions about the project. They will have a lot of doubts. They may need a lot of clarifications about many aspects of the project. So this is an exercise to gather their views or suggestions regarding the project. So the draft environmental impact assessment report will be made available to them at a public place, and they will be all called for a meeting in which the salient details of the project with the draft impact assessment report will be presented before them, so that they can understand about the details of the project and they can raise any issues which they think that is omitted in the project, etc. And then the proponent has to incorporate those aspects also in the project before finally submitting the project proposal for getting a clearance. So that is the objective of public assessment. That is to address the apprehensions of the people who have a stake in the project to be incorporated in the project. This public consultation is done. So that is to ascertain the views of local persons during the public hearing. And the outcome of the public consultation will be included in the final EIA report, which is submitted for the getting the final approval. And this public hearing normally is conducted by the Pollution Control Board. It's the duty of the Pollution Control Board to conduct the public hearing, and the district magistrate will chair this public hearing. All the proceeds of the public hearing will be recorded videographically, and that also will be submitted along with the application for getting clearance for the project from the competent authority. So that is the importance of the public hearing. Then the fourth stage is appraisal. So when the final impact assessment report is prepared, it will be submitted to the competent authority for appraisal, and a detailed examination of the report will be carried out by either the central government agency or the state expert appraisal committee, and they will advise the decision makers regarding approval of the project. So the last stage is stage 5, that is environmental clearance. So the decision of the Minister of Environment and Forest or State Environmental Impact Assessment Authority will be communicated to the proponent based on the recommendation of the expert committee to them. So that is the last stage of the environmental clearance process. So this is in short about the impact assessment or project clearance process in India. And once a clearance is granted, if it is a river valley project, that is a water resource project, it will have a validity of 10 years. Validity means the period from which the prior environmental clearance is granted to the start of production or operation. So a project, a water resource project will get 10 years after the grant of the clearance for the implementing the project to start operation. That is to start producing power or to supply irrigation water through the canals to the farmers. So for mining projects, it is 30 years. And for normally for all other type of projects, the validity is 5 years. So this is in short about the environmental clearance process. So far we have been hearing about the process of getting clearance for a project, and we are not seeing how an impact assessment study is actually done. That we will see now. So what are the various steps in implementing, in carrying out an impact assessment study? That we will see now. So this shows the key EAA process. You can see here, screening, scoping, that is the first stage, in which we decide the key environmental issues. Then comes the second stage of defining the baseline, that is to collect the information on the existing environment. Then comes the prediction or evaluation of the impacts of the project on the environment. Then comes the mitigation phase, and then lastly, the reporting phase. See, our whole idea behind doing the environmental impact process is to know what are the likely impacts the project is likely to create on the environment. So for that, first of all, we must know what all parameters of the environment are likely to be affected by the particular project. Then we must use some means predict the impacts which are likely to occur on the various environmental parameters. Then we have to suggest measures to reduce the adverse impacts. That's also part of the impact assessment study. Then prepare the report incorporating all these details in the report. So that is in short about the EAA process. Now we will see each of these steps in little bit more detail. And here the most important steps are the second and third steps, and that we will see a little bit in more detail. So the stages 2 and 3 are shown in details here. We want to know what are the impacts likely to occur on the environment. For that, we must first of all know what are the activities involved in the project. Only when we know the activities, we will be able to predict the impacts likely to occur on the project. That's why the first step in this is identifying the activities involved in the project. Then we have to decide which all environmental parameters are likely to be affected by the different activities of the project. And once we decide the parameters which are likely to be affected by the project, we have to measure or predict the impacts likely to occur when the project is implemented using some means. And then we have to summarize all the impacts so that the decision maker will get a complete picture of the positive and negative impacts that are going to occur because of the project, so that you can take an appropriate decision. And that will be fine. Now let us see these steps in more detail. Like any other process, this impact assessment process also have got a lot of methods for doing this impact assessment process. So many methods are there. Here, I have chosen a method using a matrix approach because it is easy. It's a very systematic one, and the audience will get an understanding of how it is how this whole thing is working. There are so many methods. The Ministry of Environment and Forest or any other agency is not stipulating that for a particular project you have to adopt such and such methods, etc. So, depending on the expertise of the agency which is carrying out the study, they can choose a suitable method. Only thing they have to convince the authorities regarding the sanctity of that particular method. So I have chosen a matrix approach for explaining this impact assessment steps. So first step, as I have already mentioned, is determine the activities associated with implementing project, because each activity will have some impact on the environment. So the agency which is carrying out the study has to prepare a very comprehensive list of activities. As I have said in the beginning, an impact assessment study will be carried out by a multidisciplinary team of experts, because environment encompasses many fields. So experts from all those fields has to be there to carry out the impact assessment study. So all these experts have to sit together and prepare a very comprehensive list of activities involved in the particular project. For example, if you consider a water sources project, if you think about the activities involved, normally, a water source project will have the main component is a reservoir, and that will be located in a forested area where there may not be proper approach roads. So the team has to think about, first of all, developing approach road to the area. Then once the approach road, if you want to build an approach road, you may have to clear the area, because it mostly to be in a forested area. So a lot of trees may have to be cut to pave way for building the approach road. And to build the approach road, you may have to make a lot of cutting, filling, etc. And once the approach road is built, you have to prepare facilities for the laborers to stay. So their place for may have to be provided with drinking water, fuel, etc. Then we may have to bring in power lines, because some of the machineries which have to work there may need electricity. You may have to bring in water supply lines. You may have to bring in telephone lines. You may have to bring in basic facilities like hospitals, etc. So the multidisciplinary team has to sit together and prepare a very comprehensive list of activities which are to be there for implementing that project. This list shows a general list of basic construction activities. You can see a lot of things here. So for each of these activities, there will be some impact. So the step 2 is you have to characterize the environment and study the changes that might be brought about by the project. So characterize the environment means you must know what was the condition of the environment before any activity has been done in the area. Then only you will be able to find out the impacts. So the step 2 is to characterize the environment. That is to know what was the baseline condition in that area before anything was done there. So as to help us in predicting the impact of the activities in the area. So that is the step 2. So for this, a complete study of the various biophysical and socio-economic characteristics of the environment needs to be done. Biophysical means see what is the flow rate of the river there, what is the quality of the water in the river, what is the soil type, what is the type of vegetation existing there. Then socio-economic aspects means what are the type of people living there, what is the main economic resource of the area, etc., etc. So to study that, we need to study the changes brought about on the various attributes of the environment. Attributes of the environment means the various parameters which define the environment. So if you want to say about the impacts, we want to know what are the parameters which are likely to be affected by the various activities of the project. And the impacts are defined based on its effect on various environmental parameters. Those variables which represent the quality of the environment are called attributes. And these attributes are generally classified into 8 categories as you are here: air, water, land, ecology, sound, human aspects, economics, resources, etc. So if you come to the water, water, the attribute water can be defined by what is the pH of the water there, what is the suspended solids concentration of the water, what is the BOD of water in the river, what is the suspended solids concentration, etc., etc. The air, if we come to air, what is the concentration of particulate matter in the air in the area, what is the concentration of sulfur dioxide in the air in the area. Ecology, if we come to ecology, what are the species of terrestrial organisms living there, what are the aquatic organisms living there, etc. The sound, what are the ambient level of noise in the area. Human aspects means what are the characteristics of the people living there, what is their family size, what are the diseases affecting them, etc., etc. So, the environmental attributes are categorized in these 8 categories, and for each of your activity, what are the impacts likely to occur in each of these environmental attributes need to be studied in detail to find out the impact on those parameters. That's what we do. So that is what we do in the next step, that is to determine the environmental impacts. So in this, the different steps are identification of impacts on water use. We will be having hundreds of activities. Some of the activities may not have a significant impact on environmental parameters. So we have to decide in advance what are the environmental parameters which are likely to be impacted significantly. We have to restrict our study only to those parameters of the environment which are likely to be affected considerably. So that is all those things are done here, and then adopting certain suitable measures, we have to predict or measure the impacts on the attributes. And a single activity will have impact on different environmental parameters. So all those impacts has to be either measured using some model studies, or you have to predict using some appropriate methodology. And normally we use statistical methods, softwares, or the opinion of experts, etc., are all used for predicting the impact of various environmental parameters. And as I have said, different activities of the project will have varying impacts on different various parameters of the environment. So that will give a very, very, very vague picture of the environment, of the impact on the various environmental parameters. We have to sum it up to find out the net impact on the various environmental parameters, so that the decision maker will get a clear picture of the impact on the various parameters. For that, this matrix will help us a lot. And how it is done, we will see using a sample which I am going to show now. So this is an example of a simple matrix which shows, you can see here on the x-axis, various environmental parameters are shown. Under water, various sub-parameters are, some sub-parameters are shown here. You can see here the aquifer safe field, flow variation, suspended solids concentration, thermal pollution, biochemical oxygen demand, dissolved oxygen demand, dissolved solids, etc. And on the y-axis, that is on this column, the various activities should be listed. So against each activity, if a particular activity has an impact on flow variation, it will be marked here, adopting certain uniform scale. All that is complicated issues, but I'm not getting into all that. But to give you an idea about the process, we will take a simple step and then see how it will be impact on various environmental parameters and were aggregated to give a clear picture of the impact on the various attributes. Say we will take a simple case of 4 activities, A, B, C, D. They are listed here. And activity A has got a positive impact on flow variation. Positive impact on flow variation means flow variation is minimized. Say, for example, if you take a water resources project, you are building up a dam and controlling the downstream flow. So if the dam was not there, during summer months, the flow in the river might have gone down considerably. That might affect the people living downstream. So for the people living downstream, depending on the flow of the river, for some of their day-to-day activity will be adversely affected. And the dam project will, even in summer months, they will release some amount of water through the stream. So the flow variation there is modified by that particular project. That is a reservoir project or it's an irrigation project. So activity A is producing a positive impact on flow variation. So while marking here the impacts, I am using a terminology of plus and minus. Plus means a positive impact and minus means a negative impact. And I have to also give weightage to the parameters depending on the importance of those parameters. If this has a lot of weightage, I will put 2 plus. If it is a normal weightage, I will give 1 plus. Likewise, adopting certain uniform scale, you have to mark all the impacts on various attributes in this worksheet. So here you can see activity A has a positive impact on flow variation and negative impact on surface suspended solids concentration of the water, and a positive impact on biochemical oxygen demand. Positive impact on biochemical oxygen demand means what? That means biochemical oxygen demand will be reduced. And the suspended solids concentration negative impacts means what? Suspended solids concentration will be increasing. Say for example, the river water is carrying a lot of sediments during the rainy season. So the suspended solids concentration will go up. And as a result of the suspended solids concentration going up, light penetration in the water will increase. If light penetration, will decrease. So if light penetration decreases, the living organs, say for example algae or some plants living in the water will get adversely affected because they will not get adequate light for their photosynthetic activities. When the plants in the water gets affected, their numbers may come down and it will affect the fishes living there because they may not get adequate food for their survival. So one particular activity you can see here, in some of the parameters it is producing positive impact, in some of the parameters it is producing negative impact. Likewise, for all the different fields of the environment, you have to mark these impacts which we have generated using some method. Methods may be either statistical method, then some software, some empirical equations, etc. So, employing different techniques, we have to predict the impacts on the various environmental attributes, and those will be shown marked in this matrix worksheet, adopting a uniform scale. Then another activity B, it has got a negative impact on flow variation, and it does not have any other impact on the water, on any other parameters of the water. And another activity C is producing a positive impact on flow variation, a negative impact on suspended solids concentration, and a negative impact on biochemical oxygen demand. And it does not have any other impact on these parameters. So, likewise, many different activities will have different impacts on different environmental parameters. So here, if you look at this table, you will not get a clear idea of whether how much is the net quantum of impact on the various environmental parameters. Here you can see 1 positive, 1 negative, 1 positive, here 2 negative, here 1 positive, here 1 positive, here 2 negatives. So the decision maker cannot take an appropriate decision based on this picture. So we use the next matrix worksheet to aggregate all the impacts which we have seen in the previous one. See here you can see there is a space for marking positive impacts and a space for marking negative impacts. This side we mark all the positive impact against the corresponding environmental parameter, and here we mark all the negative impacts against the corresponding environmental attribute. And the negative impacts are here, while we mark it, we are using a scale. And both sides we use the same scale and mark the net impacts. So how this is done? Let us see. So if we take flow variation, for example, we see two positive impacts and one negative impact. So what the net impact will be? One positive impact. That is marked here. Against flow variation on this side of the matrix worksheet, we have shown a positive impact of 1 unit because the net impact is positive. Then if we take the case of suspended solids, we can see the net values 2 negative impacts. So against suspended solids, we are shown, since it is negative impact, the negative adopting the same scale, negative value. So likewise, all the impacts produced by the different activities are summarized in this matrix worksheet, which gives us a clear indication of the positive and negative impacts. But remember, it does not mean that if the negative impacts are maximum, the project will not get as approval. The whole idea behind doing this environmental impact assessment process is to identify the positive and negative impacts of the project likely to occur when the project is implemented in advance, so that appropriate mitigating measures can be built in the project itself, so that the project can be implemented with least environmental impacts. That is the whole idea behind doing this environmental impact assessment process. So for each of the negative impacts which we see through this process, we have to suggest remedial measures. That is called environmental management plan. So an environmental management plan which addresses the negative impacts of the project and the measures to mitigate those measures, those impacts is also a part of the environmental impact assessment study, and that's called the environmental management plan. This is also a part of the report which we submit to the authorities for getting clearance of the project. So this is in short about the impact assessment process, various steps involved in impact assessment process. So I think I have given you a very brief introduction about the environmental impact assessment process, because this is a very vast subject and a subject which involves the expertise of people from different fields. I can only say so much in a short span of 1 hour. And anybody who is interested to know more about these aspects can refer the site of Ministry of Environment and Forest, where it will take you all the details of these aspects, and you can gather more information from there. So with this, I will stop this brief presentation about the environmental impact assessment process. Now I think we can answer the questions from the participants.
Okay, sir. You are having some questions, sir.
Okay.
Interesting questions coming up in the chat box. So the first one is from Varun Menon. He has asked that what are the important softwares used by various agencies for impact study?
See, for impact study as such, there are no softwares. So for the prediction of various impacts, we use the conventional methods as well as softwares available for that. For example, you want to know what will be the flow in the river during a rainy day. We can use rainfall runoff models, or we know a lot of softwares are there which can be used for such purposes. So likewise, for each parameter, the models available in the market has to be used for prediction purpose. For the entire exercise of environmental impact assessment, there is no software available. Now, for another example is suppose you want to know the effect of air pollution, or the effect of stack emission 1 kilometer from the point of its emission. You can use the Gaussian pollution model for predicting those effects. Likewise, there is no ready-made software available for doing the entire exercise of environmental impact assessment.
Okay. There is another question from Mr. Ratnavel. He's asking, do area development activities under Smart Cities mission have an exception for EIA?
Yeah, certain kinds of projects are exempted from doing detailed environmental impact assessment study. Area development project generally comes under exempted category, but depending on the magnitude of the project, say very big projects need environmental repairs. For the details of which you have to refer to the Ministry of Environmental Forest site. Generally, area development projects, construction projects, etc., do not need a detailed impact assessment study. But major, very big projects need. Please refer to the Ministry of Environmental Forest for details.
Okay. Then there is a question from Mr. Gauri Shankar. Is asking, how can we use environmental impact assessment in interstate water distribution?
Now, interstate water distribution does not come under this. That is to be taken up at a different level. It just, but interstate water distribution, one of the issues which comes there is what is the minimum flow to be maintained in a river if you divert water from a particular river to another river, etc. So there you may have to carry out some study to ascertain the environmental flows to be maintained in the river. As such, interstate transfer of water may not need a impact assessment study. Because in the list of projects requiring environmental repairs, interstate transfer of water does not come.
Okay. There is a query from Dr. Sheba VA. She's asking, the new EIA notification draft 2020 has reduced the time for public consultations. What will be the possible consequences?
Sorry, I cannot answer that.
Okay. Again, whether is there any techniques to find soil strength during EIA process?
Can you repeat that question?
Whether the consultants actually use any techniques? How do the consultants actually find soil strength during EIA process?
No. I don't get your question. Can you make it more clear?
Okay. No, that was a question raised by Govika Balakrishnan. She asked whether they use any techniques to find the soil strength during EIA process.
Soil strength. What is see? I'm not getting the question. Soil strength. Why soil strength? What is
perspective? Okay.
No, erodibility, etc. is needed in the study. I don't know. Maybe if that particular project is likely to create a lot of erosion, etc., such studies may have to be done.
Okay.
Not getting the what exactly she wants to know, I don't know. No specific methods are mentioned anywhere in the impact assessment notification for any particular aspect. Any method which will adequately define the process is okay for the study. Only thing the agency has to convince the decision makers that it is appropriate for predicting the impact of that parameter.
Okay. Now there is a question from Tanishid Rashid asking, to what extent can EIA be seen as a tool for sustainable development?
Yes, EIA, one of the prime objective before of carrying out an environmental impact assessment is to ensure sustainability. When the project is done, we should not do the project at the cost of the environment by damaging the environment. So the very concept of environmental impact assessment is to ensure sustainability.
Okay. Then Vikas Mishra is asking whether you can explain about some simple or low-cost projects for educational institutions or individuals.
Projects.
Yeah. He's asking about EIA projects.
EIA projects.
Institutions or
Let me explain. See, a comprehensive EIA study needs 1 year. Because, as I already explained, it involves study on hundreds of environmental parameters. So, EIA study cannot be done within a very short period of time. But there is one category of study known as the rapid EIA. Rapid EIA means it is an impact assessment study carried out using available data, readily available data, that is secondary data. So this is actually done for all impact assessment studies. At that, after carrying out a rapid EIA study using the available data only, it is decided whether to go in for a detailed study or not. If we find that through the rapid EIA study, if we find that the impacts which are likely to occur because of the project implementation is minor, normally we do not go in for a detailed study. So such studies can be done. Say, if for any aspect for which sufficient secondary data is available, rapid impact assessment study can be done.
Trilokchandar Ashokan, he's asking that the attribute assessment has less consequence in getting environmental clearance. So what is the significance of performing it?
See, the whole impact assessment study is depending on the attributes. Attributes are variables which represent the environment. So the impacts on the attributes are what we are studying in the whole exercise. So attribute is the most important thing in an impact assessment study. It is over the entire study is dependent on or is based on the impact which a project or the activities of the project is creating on the attribute.
Sir, there is another question from Ms. Kajal Purushothaman. Does water treatment plants require EIA?
Yeah, such it is not there in the list.
Okay.
So it does not need a impact assessment study.
Then there is a question from Dr. N. Arun Nagendran. He's asking how long EIA has to be done for assessing the impact in environmental fragile regions?
No, in fact, study on environmental fragile regions, impact assessment study need not be done on environmental fragile areas. For if your project will be documented
in environmental fragile areas.
If a particular project is on an environmentally fragile area, you have to do the impact assessment study. That's what I said. A normal impact assessment study has to be done for a project which will be implemented in an environmentally fragile area. Comprehensive study is to be done, covering all the aspects.
Sir, there is another question. How to deal with the low flow in the downstream of a dam with regard to EIA?
How to deal with the low flow, we have to ensure that some amount of water is released from the reservoir so that the flows does not go below the environmental flows needed there. So reservoir, one advantage of reservoirs in a particular river is that we can control the flow through the river. If the reservoir was not there in the summer months, there may be portions in the river which will not have a flow at all. But with the reservoir in the river, we can release some water from the reservoir so that some minimum flow is maintained in the river all through the year.
Okay. There is another question: how to apply alternative studies in environmental documents for managing the environmental impacts of businesses or project activities?
Question is not clear to me.
How to apply alternative studies in environmental documents for managing the environmental impacts of various businesses or projects.
How to apply alternative studies? What is he mentioning?
It's not clear actually. Yeah, there is another question, sir. Is there any software available for metrics assessment for quantifying environmental impacts?
No, no software is available. No software is available to my knowledge.
Okay.
And every EAA is different. So one particular software cannot be used for all cases. The impacts produced by different projects will vary widely depending on the activities involved in the project. So no single method can be used for all the projects.
So then there is another query from Mr. Satyamurthy. He's asking how long it may take to get the clearance for a dam project, including a public hearing.
Okay. That is one aspect I didn't cover in the presentation. There is a very clear guidelines by the Ministry of Environment and Forest for this. Right now, it is not available with me. Once a proponent submits a EAA report to the agency for clearance, Ministry of Environment and Forest have specified within how much time the project is to be either approved or the communication regarding approval or non-approval is to be given to the proponent. Please refer to the website of Ministry of Environment and Forest. I do not have it right away with me. It is all available, which is a very clear, clearly given by the Ministry of Environment and Forest.
Now, Dr. A.S. Vyal is asking, what is the basis for deciding metrics components for water resources projects?
No, that is to be decided by the agency which is carrying out the study. The team of experts has to decide which all parameters are likely to be affected by the particular project. So depending on the nature of project and where it is implemented, the parameters has to be decided. Because it will vary from location to location.
Okay. So that is from the question answer session. Actually, there are no more questions actually coming up.
Okay.
I think that is that. So thank you for your time. I think Shweta, you may take over.
Thank you, sir. Development is for the future, but there is no future without an environment. All of us here, irrespective of the places we are in, are fighting for a common cause. because the earth is the only thing we have in common. And thank you, sir, for reminding us that every action of ours has an impact on this environment. The presentation has also made us aware of how EIA really works and how important it is. I, on behalf of ASCE and the entire fraternity, extend a sincere thanks to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Jayakumar P. Sir, who sparked his valuable time from his busy schedule to grace the occasion. The session was enlightening and the need of the hour. Thank you, sir. I also extend a thanks to Ms. Anita P., Chairman, Governing Body, FISAT, and Dr. George Isaac, Principal of FISAT, who has made this event possible. Events like this require planning, professionalism, and a bird's eye for details. With great gratitude, I thank Dr. Unnikartha G, Head of Civil Engineering Department, FISAT, for being a constant support and guiding us together. We have been fortunate enough to be backed up by a team of dedicated staffs, Mr. Jawahar Saud, Ms. Rinu J. Akizan, and Ms. Neeraja N., and Mr. Jitesh, who has been providing us with technical support. Thank you all for making this program a success. Behind the curtains, we have a team of KSCE volunteers who readily took initiative and they have been handling the social media platforms. A sincere gratitude to my friends out there. Last but not the least, we have around 1,000 participants from abroad from IITs and NITs, industry and public undertakings, and engineering colleges. Thank you for gracing the occasion with your presence. Thank you for joining us today and have a nice day.
So thank you, Dr. Unnikartha and his team for organizing this event. I am thankful to each one of you for giving me this opportunity to interact with you. I hope I have given a brief introduction to this broad subject of environmental impact assessment within this short period of 1 hour. And for carrying out this webinar, my colleague Mr. Vivek has helped me a lot. So I thank Mr. Vivek and his subordinates for making this webinar possible sitting at CWRDM. So I once again thank the team led by Dr. Unnikartha and his colleagues for giving me this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
ഒന്ന് സെർവർ പോയില്ലേ?